Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. Thank you all for joining us once again. I am your host, Ben Crossman, and thank you so much for joining us as we kick off this wonderful Friday with a, well, in some places I hear Saturday, but yeah, we'll get into that. And yes, joining us on the show today, we have a company called Lime Inc., and they run a website called Lime Dating and have an app called, of course, Lime. And we're going to talk all about how, you know, I will say I have used a number of dating apps, ladies, still single, but I've used a number of them, and, you know, they all have, you know, a lot of them have a lot going for them, but at the same time, they're all very cookie cutter, bland, you know, kind of same deal, different users, and, you know, all the same ecosystem kind of, you know, rolled into one. This one's a bit different. Lime offers a number of what I really do feel like are improvements on dating apps, and we'll of course talk to the CEO of Lime about what makes Lime Dating so much different. And then also later in the show, we'll do computer and technology news, where we go over the latest stories that we can of course find here on the internet that you need to know about, including of course the new TitanXp. That is the Pascal version of the Titan X, only for $1,200. You too can have one. And we're going to talk about a number of other things, including, you know, something boring like net neutrality, and something interesting like, just a number of different stories that we have. But before we get into all that, of course, check out computeramerica.com, because right there on our homepage, we have a link to our guest website. So if you happen to be driving, if you're working, if you're doing something that you can't tear yourself away from, do not worry, head on over to our website, and we have links to any articles, any websites, any videos, anything that we do here on the show, you can, of course, check out there. Also, be sure to check out our website for the video portion, as well as the social media contest, which we will be giving away another prize, that's right, another prize, later on in the show today. Very exciting, from our friends over at Logitech. That's right, the Keys to Go keyboard, giving one of those away to a lucky listener. So with all of that said and all of that out of the way, I think we're going to introduce our guest, and bright and early from New Zealand, you know, and we've had a number of New Zealand companies here on the show. Always a treat, but I know the time differences are rather drastic. So I believe at about 8 o'clock in the morning, welcome onto the show, CEO of course, Lime Inc., we have Edward Chen joining us. So Edward, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. And, you know, and like I said, I thank you so much for, coming in, joining us so early, and I believe it's Saturday over there, so, double whammy. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Ben.
Right. So, and I think we should get things kicked off with a little bit of an overview of the company. When did you get started, and what was the mission in starting, Lime Inc.?
Well, we started building this project in November last year.
Mm-hmm.
And, the idea of Lime is that initially I have quite a few friends around me that use dating apps, just like yourself. Then I can see how they struggle with these dating apps, such as, Tinder, Bumble. They spend hours and just swiping through random profiles that are just so irrelevant.
Right.
And I use the Apple Health app a lot to compare my steps with my friends. And it sort of just came to me like, wouldn't it be a great idea to match couples with similar step counts? Because it does says a lot about a person by just looking at their average step count, because their walking habits pretty much shows their lifestyle pretty much. So yeah, it just came to me. It's actually a pretty good idea to match people with step counts and activity level.
Yeah, and that is that's of course very interesting because we have over the past couple of years run into the idea that fitness is not just something that you kind of do and you walk away from. Fitness is an ongoing thing, and fitness is something that should be tracked and really monitored over over the course of days, weeks, months, years to really get a
Yep.
true picture of what your fitness level is. So, and I can see
Yep.
we're combining that. Now, how do you exactly combine that? I mean, is there something in your app that tracks step count, or or is it kind of one of those things because dating apps, people lie on there all the time. So, how
Yeah.
do you get accurate information into your profile?
Well, this one you couldn't really lie because we use the built-in Apple Health app.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have your phone with you, sort of, well, almost 24/7, in your pocket, and then every time when you go out, when you walk, the health app calculates your step count, basically. So you can't really lie.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
No, no, it makes perfect sense, and and this idea of the step count, obviously, it's going to come up, quite often in this idea of the dating app, and what have you found, or I'm assuming that you did some market research, some testing, or even some testimonials from actual users. What can similar step counts really tell you about a person? Because someone with a low step count might match with a low step count or high. What makes step count such a good indicator that you have a compatible match?
Um, well, the thing is about step count. Because let's say um, because it looks at your weekly step count.
Mm-hmm.
So um, it pretty much tells your lifestyle. I mean, what you do really. So
Right.
if for a person that works in the office, your week days step count would be pretty low because you sit in the office all day. Um, yeah, that's what you do. And for someone like a blue collar worker,
Right.
their step count would be pretty high, I suppose, because it's more physical. Um, And then on weekends, it also shows your sort of lifestyle because if your weekend step count is high, that means you like to explore, you like to go out and do a lot of walking and stuff. And if your step count is low on the weekend, then that probably means that you probably would like to binge watch, Netflix or something.
Right.
Yeah.
It,
So yeah.
I,
So they're
I'm
pretty show. Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
it sounds great and all, and of course, matching with similar people with a similar lifestyle. That's of course going to be helpful because means you might enjoy some of the same activities. But let's go a step further, and is there a minimum step count required? And is there really any or like has step count kind of turned into a competition among your users, or is it really just another indicator? Like it's not about boosting your step count to get better matches. It's about really giving you true data to find a better match.
Yep. First of all, there's no minimum. Yeah, there's no requirement for that. So,
Right.
I mean, your step up could be really low, and you can still join. Yeah, that's not a problem. Um, competition? No, no. I mean, there's no competition running in the app. Well, I mean, the app does sort of encourage you to walk more, but there's no competition. But the thing is that it shows the app shows the most compatible, most similar step count profiles to you first,
Hmm.
so that you don't waste time swiping other irrelevant profiles. And the thing is that if you change your lifestyle, so say if you do more activity, and then your step count increases, then these matches would actually change as well. They'll change, to more active people
Right.
that sort of matching to you. Yeah. So that's the idea.
Very, very, very interesting. So, and it sounds like there's some kind of, you won't, and please feel free to correct me, but you won't match with someone who maybe, has a much, much higher step count than you? Or are there kind of filters that you can set where, only show me people who have a step count within a couple thousand of me? Or, how does the app kind of, take that away from you? Or is it a filter kind of system where you can set as high or low as you want?
Um, there's no filter at the moment just yet, but that's a
Okay.
pretty good idea. Um, yeah. Um, yeah, there's no filter, but yeah, it won't show you someone with step count is really very different from you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, and again, it's basing on the idea that if you have a similar step count, you're going to be a pretty compatible match. And like I said, I've tried other dating apps. There's a lot of metrics that go into it.
Mm.
I mean, one of the most popular, because I really feel like this was the way that internet dating started. 20 some odd years ago. That you fill out a
Yep.
profile, you get a lot of questions that you can lie perfectly on, and
Yeah.
get matches who really don't even care about the questions you answered. How
Yep.
how how uh how many other aspects of other dating sites have you rolled in on top of the step count?
You mean other than
Right,
taking the activity level into
right,
account?
right, right. Other than activity level, do you have questions?
Yep.
Do you have a profile? Are there pictures? How what else composes your profile if you join Lime?
Besides step count, we at the moment you can only sign up from Facebook,
Right,
so that's that. Yeah. So we grab your photos from your Facebook, and we take your date of birth and the other all the other basic information, and also your interests. So we try to match that as well with other people, so that you can see your common interests on other people's profile. Um, Other than that, yeah, there's not really anything else that you can fill out actually. Yeah,
okay,
no,
no, and and many other apps have kind of rolled with that, and let's face it, with the rise of things such as Tinder, whatnot, it really goes to show you that people are, you know, that that meeting, that first date can happen, very, very quickly. I mean, it's about seeing the picture, seeing if you have anything in interest, and then just making a snap decision, because people really don't go beyond the first picture, second picture. It is,
yep.
it kind of is what it is. So it seems like you're really tying on top of that. And I'm assuming that there's some kind of distance check, to make sure you're not matching people
That's correct.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. That's a filter for that. So
right,
you can set that as yeah. So the default is set to 100 miles. So yeah, you can set it to shorter distance. Yeah,
right. And again, once you match someone, let's say you both, I'm assuming it's a swipe system, swipe right for yes, swipe left for no.
yeah,
Once you
yep.
both swipe, what happens when you get a match? Like, what's the next step after you match with someone?
It works pretty much the same as the other apps. So you can just start chatting. You can send a message to each other and just start chatting. Yep.
Yep. No, that's that's exactly what you want to hear. And so, I mean, testing this, it's it can't be the easiest thing in the world, because starting a new dating app from scratch, that's the thing about dating, is that like a lot of people go to the application that has the most users, because obviously the most users,
Yeah.
you're going to have the the best chance of finding
Yeah.
someone. Obviously
Mm.
there's niches such as the one you're trying to fill. How was the testing of this? I mean, where did you test it, and where would you say your users are really starting to come from?
So before we released this, we tested in Auckland, back here in New Zealand, and we received a lot of good feedback from the people that we tested with. So we rolled it out to one of the universities here, and it went really well. And then the next city that we test was San Francisco. We rolled that out, and then the rest of the states. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, it's and universities, I can really see this being a big deal, because you're talking about step
Yep.
count, and let's
Yep.
face it, on a college campus, you're going to be, really booking it to class and doing that kind of thing. So I can definitely understand that. And let's how did you decide that? fitness was one of the because it's at this point it's very very easy to track step count thanks to Apple Fit, Fitness, Fitbit, a lot of tracking apps. How did you decide that this was a good indicator? Because this is honestly, again, I've personally done online dating. I've seen a lot of different gimmicks, and yours is the first time I've ever heard matching purely step
Yep.
count to match other people.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said before, I think step count actually tells a lot about your lifestyle. Um, and I think step count is really just the first step that we use to measure, and then I think we will start tracking devices as well, like Fitbit. At the moment, it doesn't, but we're working on that, and then we'll track that, and then that will basically track your other activity, like not just step count. It will track, when you're working out, when you going bicycle, or running, jogging, whatever. Yeah. So that's probably the next step. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense because, like I said, a lot of the other apps, they have areas where you can kind of fill out your fitness level or, they kind of have you describe how fit you are. And I'll be honest, I'm seeing
Yeah.
a lot of
I know.
people who kind of look like me, but they're also marathon runners, and it makes no
Yeah.
sense whatsoever. So, being able to
Yep.
import the data very simply, I can see where that could be a very, a very attractive,
Yep.
prospect.
Yep. Yeah.
Um, are you finding much success already? Because again, November, that's not a lot of time, but dating apps,
Mm.
they can kind of catch fire. So I mean, do you already have a lot of users?
Yes. Yes. Up to now, we have 25,000 users already,
Wow,
and yeah, and we already have 1,100 matches so far.
not
Yeah.
bad, not bad. And
Yeah.
and of course you're going to keep growing because like we said,
Yes.
as you start to gain traction, other people are going to turn other people onto it, and it's going to be one of those things that you really start spreading the word user to user. So no, that's absolutely great. And
Yep.
you know, why don't we talk real quick about gaming the system? Because my first thought is, well, how do we already cheat the system? You mentioned that this takes kind of a weekly average. What if I'm having like a really busy week or like a really good week, and then the next week, I have a week off of work and I'm not doing much? How much is that really going to affect you? Like, maybe
Mhm.
having a bad week or a really, really good week. How much does it kind of average to kind of, reduce those spikes?
Yeah, that is something that we are actually working on at the moment. Sort of just analyzing the data. I think we can easily just switch to monthly as well.
Right.
So if we do that, that will be probably a lot more accurate. Yeah.
Right. No, and definitely. I mean, weekly that's great and all, and it's going to be kind of ever changing, and that's kind of what you want because like you said, it matches. A variety of matches is probably going to
Yep.
be better than a stagnant kind of match, but very very good that you are, of course, working on that. Sounds like you are actively developing on this, and oh, sorry,
Yes.
and
Yes.
are you taking feedback from your users? Like, is that something you're actively doing?
Yes. Yes. So far, it's being a lot of very good positive feedbacks. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And
Very good.
yeah, and why don't we talk about the app because you mentioned it started in New Zealand and you of course moved to the US and the US is of course expanding. Um but is it available in Europe? Is it available in Australia? I mean, where else is the Lime dating app available?
Um, we have just released an update, which was just probably last week, and that update basically contains the localization for all the other languages. So that update is live now, and so basically Lime is basically available in all other countries. So I think it's 155 countries. Yeah,
Very, very cool.
in
No,
the App Store. Yep.
and of course available through iTunes and Google Play.
Yes, Google Play is live as well.
All right, perfect. And why don't we talk about you? Obviously, we aren't going to get into specific numbers, but in general, are you seeing this kind of open up to everyone, or are you finding athletes really taking a shine to this, or again, is this for everyone?
The app is for everyone. Yeah, it's not just for athletes. No, yeah, it's for everyone. So anyone with any kind of activity level can sign up. So if you are couch potato, you can still sign up. Yeah, not a problem. You would just match with other couch potatoes. Yeah,
Good. Thank goodness, because I was going to download this and be like, well, I'm going to be the
yeah,
most unhealthy person on this app. But it sounds like, I'm going to have some competition. That's okay. So, no, it's very, very cool. And again, location based, all that good stuff. And, obviously it's going to take some
yep,
a little more time to, to
yep,
kind of catch on. But, this is something that I think that plays into your benefits is that, between myself, my friends who also do dating like this, you don't just download one app. Like you download three
that's
or
correct.
four of them, and you go
Yep,
continuously until you find something. So that's great.
yep.
And was there anything that we kind of missed, or that you kind of want to emphasize about Lime that we may have glossed over?
Um, no, I think we covered pretty much everything. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And for everyone out there, if you're watching the video portion, we of course show the little trailer that they have. We show their website. You can of course, as we said, find it on the iTunes Store and the Google Play Store. And again, it's just kicking off, but already thousands of users, 25,000. Congratulations on your,
thank you.
on all your growth. And again, I'm definitely going to give this a try. Not saying that every listener out there is going to be able to match me, but I'm gonna definitely give it a try, and
Yep,
yeah, and we'll definitely talk about it
yep,
again. And please, feel free to come back when you have any other features, or you'd like
yep.
to announce something.
Great, thank you.
All right, and thank you once again, and everyone who, if you're just joining in, please head on over to Computer America to listen to the archive. You can listen to the entire interview again and again. I want to say goodbye to Mr. Edward Chen, CEO of Lime Inc. So Chen, or I'm sorry,
Thank you.
Edward, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me, Ben.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So, and there he goes. And once again, you can check out lime.dating. I definitely like the new domains, lime.dating. And of course, you can go on over to our website right there on our homepage and find a link to the website. And of course, you can find it in the App Store on your phone. Very, very cool. And I like the idea of being able to take data you can't easily falsify and use it to find your proper match. Very, very exciting. So, with
Yep.
all of that, now we of course have our second segment here coming up, and that is computer and technology news. That's right, brought to you by Computer America. So, here we go with computer and technology news. All right, and now I think for everyone out there, where this is our segment where we dedicate to anything and everything that is technology related, loosely or otherwise, and we have a lot of fun with it. We try to make it as current as we possibly can. And with that being said, we have a number of stories that we of course want to get to, and my goodness, do we have a lot. I think we're going to kick off with this one in particular. Make sure I got them all up here ready to go. And I think we're going to kick off with this one. And this is one that, I'm going to try to get Nvidia on the show again to talk about it. We had them on the show talking about their Titan X and how amazing it is. And trust me, they were gracious enough to send us one, and I still use it for, my personal machine and putting it through its paces. I mean, a graphics card that was 2 years ago is still, on par with today's graphics cards, but not anymore, as we have a new Titan X. That's right. And we have something called the TitanXp. Big X, little p, is the new king of graphics cards. And crazy, 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 as we're going to talk about some of the specs of this thing. So, this coming from Engadget, Mr. Steve Dent. And yeah, again, Titan X following in Titan X's, of course, shoe prints. And much to the consternation of the last gen Titan X owners, Nvidia has recently unveiled the GTX 1080 Ti, which is a GPU that offers more performance for nearly half the price. Again, kind of what you expect for, for graphics cards. They get more powerful all the time. But hey, think of it this way. You've had a graphics card for a year or two that, let's face it, still holds up today. Well, now, a GPU that, and of course, luckily, rich gamers or, lucky gamers can regain bragging rights by dropping another $1,200 on the TitanXp. And again, we have a picture of this thing. It is crazy looking. And of course, they say that Nvidia's new top of the line consumer GPU. It's based on the Pascal GP102 chip, which also powers Nvidia's $5,000 plus Quadro P6000. So you can look at the Titan XP as a relative bargain. And yes, the Quadro P6000, we had Darius Derek-Shani talking about that. He's our computer graphics expert. And, he tests these things. He does it for a living. He drops that kind of money simply because, it makes his workload easier. It makes his work go faster. And at that point, it's just a money to time-saving endeavor. So not everyone is going to go for the $5,000 Quadro P6000. But, more of a consumer space, you're looking at the Titan XP. So the new card uses about 4,000 unlocked CUDA cores, besting the 3600 of the 1080 Ti, and it still packs 12 gigs of RAM. Yep, GDDR5 RAM and of course the same as the last model, but does so at 11.4 gigahertz, which is up from just 10 gigahertz before. So another 1.5 gigs just for upgrading. Of course, that helps it push pixels and voxels at 547.7 gigabits per second. Gigabytes per second. Amazing throughput is what I'm trying to say. And of course, it will enough speed to let it handle Crysis as if it were Candy Crush. Crysis, of course, being one of the best benchmarking games out there. So, the new card reestablishes Titan as Nvidia's flagship, pushing back the usurper, the GTX 1080 Ti. However, the latter $700 card, which is again the GTX 1080, is still the one you want unless money is simply no object. It's fairly easy to overclock it to the same performance as the Titan XP if you need to feel better about yourself. Of course, that means the Titan XP can as well be overclocked. So, there's another piece of good news from Nvidia saying that it's about to launch Beta OS X drivers for all 10 series cards. So, that means that Mac users finally get access to Nvidia's latest products. That's right. And that will especially be helpful for Adobe CC users on Mac, allowing the much faster CUDA GPU rendering. And Nvidia XP is now available on the site for about $1,200. But, of course, there's a limit of 2 per customer. So if you're hoping to get 3 of them, well, make up that fake name. But that's right, $1,200 for the pleasure of this new fancy graphics card. Very, very cool. And again, I can't say enough about the Titan X that I'm currently wielding. I mean, it's admittedly, if money is no object, definitely we're still looking at, for $200, you can still get 2 1080 Ti's, and that would probably be better than a single Titan X. But at the same time, if you want one graphics card that's going to do a heck of a lot of work, this is your go-to. I mean, if you have the money to drop on it. So, very cool to hear that Nvidia is, of course, topping themselves it seems like every single 6 months. So, yep, check it out. And again, link in the show notes. So, as we move on to our next story, and I know we don't have enough time to really get into another one, but I think we're going to head into, I think we're going to get into this one. And it's about 23andMe. This is one of our other, key stories that we're going to talk about today. And the idea about whether or not you should get your genome sequenced. Get everything sequenced so that you know if you have an untreatable disease in the near future and really just know more about yourself. So we're going to talk about that. if you should get it. And again, this is all on the heels of 23andMe getting approval by the FDA. So, more Computer America just after this. Stay tuned.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show as we continue on with computer and technology news, 31 minutes past the hour. Oh, and also something my producer wanted me to mention to everyone out there. Fun fact, if you use Amazon, and let's face it, with Amazon just now topping over $900 a share, if their stock has anything to say about it, everyone is using Amazon. And yes, one thing that my producer wanted to mention was that we, of course, run ads and, of course, hope that you support Brother Wolf Animal Rescue. But another easy way to do that is a service called smile.amazon.com. And smile.amazon, I believe it takes something like 3%, 5%, something like that, of all of your purchases that you do through Amazon, doesn't add anything to the Amazon shopping price. It doesn't add anything, doesn't change any of the listings. It's the full-fledged Amazon site. Simply put smile dot in front of Amazon, same everything, and choose Brother Wolf as an option. And of course, there are a lot of other great options, including like the Nature Conservatory. There's, many, many other worthy charities out there. We, of course, hope that you choose Brother Wolf, but, there are lots of others that could use your help as well. Anyways, pick it, and all of your purchases through Amazon will, a percentage of that will go to your charity of choice. It's very cool. Highly recommend you do it. And again, it doesn't really change anything. Just get in the habit, and hey, you could save a lot of course, animals or anything else that you want to, of course, donate to. So, with that being said, we are now moving on with, again, more computer and technology news. And this next one, again, is coming on the heels of 23andMe getting FDA approval. And they just ruled that, of course, genetic testing by any company, they can sell your test and determine they can sell you a test that can determine the likelihood of something more serious than an unfortunate sneezing habit. So, yeah, let's get into this one. This one from Popular Science. And Miss Sarah Chodosh, right, saying that getting your genetic disease risk from 23andMe is probably a terrible idea. Yeah, and we'll get into why she thinks that. And again, one point I completely disagree with. The other point that she makes, I completely agree with. So, yep, there's something in here for everyone. But that's right. If you could know whether or not you were going to develop a debilitating, inevitable, untreatable disease at age 50, would you want to know? Well, 23andMe is offering you that opportunity, but they're not going to ask you that question, saying that 23andMe has handed out genetic information like candy for over a decade without much care as to how their customers handle it. True, of course, most of the time they're selling pretty innocuous stuff. Do I have the gene that makes me sneeze when I look at the sun? What kind of earwax do I have? Where do my ancestors come from? Those genetic nuggets are easy to digest and often pretty fun because, hey, you get to learn about yourself. It's very personal. And they probably have little to no impact on your daily life. Well, here we go. But now things are changing. As they say, the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, has just ruled that other genetic testing companies can sell you tests that determine your likelihood of something more serious than an unfortunate sneezing habit. Now they can tell if you're prone to developing Alzheimer's or Parkinson's disease, along with 8 other disorders or genetic underpinnings. Right. So that's great news for 23andMe, who might have been fighting for years to sell customers this information, and it just might not be such great news for you. So here we go. And again, the central problem is this. 23andMe, again, this is the company that's making all the headlines, but you can be sure there's going to be other companies who do the same service sprouting up all over the place now. But they aim to give you all the information you want about your genetic background, but they don't want to be responsible if that knowledge actually impacts you. Are you upset by results that indicate you're likely to spend the last years of your life dependent on a caretaker, shaking uncontrollably and losing the ability to speak? Again, Parkinson's, terrible, terrible, terrible. Of course, talk to someone else. You're not 23andMe's problem anymore. I don't think it was ever their problem, but okay. And they're happy to direct you towards that resource you need to find a doctor or genetic counselor to talk to, but beyond that, they're not responsible. Of course, we live in a world where basically anything can be ordered off an approachable-looking app with a little more than a finger swipe, but consumers shouldn't be lulled into seeking out genetic information with the same carelessness. And again, so far, a few things that I'm kind of picking up from this article, and we're going to skim this lightly. We're not going to go through the entire thing of it, but at the same time, there's a point in here that she tries to make that I really don't agree with, and it's this one, saying that once you know, you know. She's trying to make the point that they can now test for certain things, including celiac disease that obviously a lot of people claim to have. They really don't know. It's very hard to test for, and they can finally test for it. They can test for things such as if you're very, very susceptible to developing Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, many of those kinds of things. They can test for that. And as she says, once you know, you know. And it's strange to say, that at 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, that you want to know what will happen to you. And maybe you imagine you'll finally open, that small business that you were hoping to open, or you're hoping on living a long, healthy life. And then you go and find out that quite possibly, thanks to this genetic test, you are very, very likely to develop Alzheimer's, which can, of course, ruin anyone's end-of-life standard of living. Well, and, they're saying, and, she makes this thing where, it's better to live in blissful ignorance than it is to know, not even for a fact, but have a pretty high certainty that this is what's going to happen to you. And again, this is one of her points, that it's 99.9% accurate, but that still means 1 in 1,000 people are misdiagnosed or offered the wrong diagnosis. So again, it's assuming that you are going to have this crippling disease, and that, it may not even be true, and it may affect the way you live and things like that. This is one that I really can't get behind. It's an idea that blissful ignorance is better than knowing and preparing. I completely do not agree with that. I think knowing what is in your genes, knowing what you're susceptible to, taking the proper actions, and heck, even knowing or planning for the inevitable is better than sticking your head in the sand and saying, well, I don't have to worry about it. I don't know. I don't care. It's better to know than it is to not know. And this is going to come up more and more, because as more and more people have these tests, run these tests, more and more data gets fed into things that we've talked about here on the show, including artificial intelligence. We're going to see markers that indicate when something might happen, how likely it's going to happen, and, taking your personal data markers, putting them into an artificial intelligence that knows what to look for, you're going to get a better picture of the kind of care you should prepare for, or the kind of care that you should expect in the coming years, or the kind of illnesses you can expect in the coming years. She says that it's better to not offer this. And again, the initial assertion that 23andMe should somehow be responsible for people after they diagnose someone. 23andMe is a glorified, testing center. They don't claim to offer any kind of treatment. So for this author to kind of say 23andMe is responsible for these people after they've been diagnosed, I don't really know about that. But at any rate, just goes to show that, again, these are not 100% accurate, and they should not be taken as 100% accurate, but they can show you 99.9% of the time, for people out there who get them, what you can expect and what you should prepare for. I'm all for that. That sounds like a great thing that I hope more and more people do. And again, this should be backed up with your doctor, with any kind of care that you feel that you should back this up with. Definitely go do it. But knowing what's coming is infinitely better than pretending like nothing is ever going to happen. Heck, that's why we pay for this thing called insurance. Now, again, I really don't agree with that, but the part of this article that I do agree with, and that everyone I really feel like should know about, that is this one. 23andMe, again, the company that just got FDA approval, is not really in the business of selling genetic testing kits anyways. Again, yeah, they're $200 a pop. You get them shipped to your home, you swab your cheek, you send it back, they test it, and next thing you know, you get a list of results, blah, blah, blah. This is the part that I really don't like, is that, again, at $200 a pop, they really aren't making that much money from the testing kits. They're probably spending more in, the materials and the testing and the man hours and all that good stuff. They're probably spending more than you're actually spending on them. But get this. They actually make money. Their ultimate business plan is that they're going to sell really, really low-level data. They're going to collect the data. Of course, hopefully, and I can almost guarantee this, they probably will strip it of any personally identifying information, although, again, wouldn't be too hard to check for, genomes. In fact, that's what DNA testing all really is. But their goal is to sell really base level data, as they say. And again, that's a quote. This was one board member told Fast Company that, quote, "The long game here is to not make money selling kits, although the kits are essential to get the base level data," saying that the product really isn't the kit, the product is the data, i.e. you. You are the product, just like Facebook. You are the product. So, with a massive database of genetic information, the company can turn around and sell the data to other companies, where plenty of those companies are doing scientific research that can only be done with access to large amounts of genetic information. And even government agencies like the National Institute of Health use the data to better understand the hereditary causes of diseases. So, and of course, besides that, they of course say that they anonymize and completely anonymize the data. Of course, they would never ever break that rule, except that even if they don't, it turns out that you can find out a man's last name using only the short repeats on his Y chromosome and access to a genealogy database. Again, they're saying that they're going to anonymize the data, that they're not going to attach it to any kind of personal information like phone number, email address, last name, first name, anything like that. But at the same time, it is your, it's your DNA. It's your chromosomes. It's, you can anonymize it all you want, but unless you falsify the data, unless you physically change it, it's going to be one of the easiest things in the world to compare someone in the database and you as a person. It's so easy to test against. So at any rate, and of course, then you can identify his age and which state he lives in using publicly accessible resources. But other than that, it's totally anonymous, as the author points out. So even after they sell the information, it's pretty easy to take the info that they do give out and connect it to a person. So if you want to find out whether your genes give you an affinity for sweetness or an unusual finger length ratio, go ahead. Just know that what you're getting yourself into is all fun and games and genetic preference for bitter foods until someone finds out that they might get Parkinson's. And she caps it off with happy testing, everyone. So again, I'm all for genetic testing. I think preventative maintenance, preventative cures, and knowing what's going to happen in the future is much, much better than just kind of saying, well, if I don't know about it, I really don't have to worry about it. If we know it's almost a certainty, better off knowing about it. But at the same time, the idea that you can sell the information en masse to any number of people, or heck, even any number of government agencies, which they've already done and continue to do, not for that. So if there was some kind of way to do this without the 23andMe company behind it, looking to turn a profit on your genetic makeup, I would totally do it. But from 23andMe, like the author says, a lot of skepticism. It's something that you're really going to have to weigh against. Do you really find the quote-unquote invasion of privacy worth it compared to not knowing? So, yep, 23andMe. I'm sure you've seen their commercials on television. It's quite the nuanced idea. So, with that being said, why don't we move on to something a little bit happier? Not a lot of happy going on lately. So, how about we do this one? And this has to do with the new iPad. For those of you who did not hear about it, well, Apple really hasn't been shouting it from the rooftops. No big press event, no big launch, just a new iPad and a press release that went along with it. So here we have it, saying that the Apple's $329 iPad is for people who have never upgraded their tablet, or indeed, anyone who has never owned a tablet. So here we go. This is a review from Ars Technica, Mr. Andrew Cunningham, and saying that and again, Apple doesn't always build mid-range gadgets, but when it does, they're pretty good. So here we have it. And again, if you're watching the video portion, you can see an image of this thing. I mean, looks like an iPad, stacks like an iPad, all that good stuff, just mid-ranged. So with that being said, we can of course say that, here we go. So Apple isn't shy about admitting it. The biggest feature of its new iPad is the price, saying that at $330, which is about $70 cheaper than the iPad Air 2 used to be, $270 cheaper than the smaller iPad Pro costs now, and $170 cheaper than the initial starting price of the iPad back in 2010. It's a big shift, especially after a year and a half where larger and more expensive iPads were Apple's main focus. And yes, we definitely saw this. The past year and a half, Apple has been really pushing the idea of the iPad Pro, which, can go all the way up to like $1,200. Crazy, crazy expensive. But now we get something a little bit more moderate, saying that that's apparently where users are, saying that Apple told us that the iPad Air 2 was the most popular iPad, and it had been since its introduction a couple of years ago. Saying that it was most popular with enterprises, with the most popular with small business, and most popular in schools, and the most popular with new to the iPad altogether. So again, the cheapest option was the most popular option. So of course, even after introducing the iPad mini in 2012 and the big iPad Pro in 2015, the 9.7-inch screen has remained the most popular of the all three. So, one of the $329 iPad's goal was to replace the aging iPad Air 2 for all of those audiences, saying that its second goal was to entice the tens of millions of people who bought one of their first 4 iPads and have not upgraded since, saying that most of the tablets don't even run iOS 10 or even the latest operating system. And of course, the one that does run iOS 10 lacks support for all of the iPad multitasking features and a bunch of other stuff. So, if nothing else, it's a security update. You know, it's always good to be on the latest iOS update just for security reasons alone. Not to mention all of the, of course, upgrades that come along with new features. So, saying that there's also a third goal that Apple didn't want the author to talk about, the elephant in the room. Anytime Apple does anything with the iPad, we're now entering our third straight year of sales decline, both in terms of units sold and revenue earned. Saying that the iPad Pro showed some signs of helping the problem last year, but none of the iPad Apple had put out since 2014 has halted the product's downward slide. And again, I think it's one of those things where not everyone is going to upgrade every 2 years like they would an iPhone. You know, a tablet is not really under any kind of stress or worry to upgrade. Like, honestly, as long as you have an iPad and as long as it does what you want it to do, then you're going to be happy with it. It just hasn't caught the upgrade cycle that the phone has. So, can't really expect a lot of people to, change. So, they're calling it, if you're trying to explain the new iPad, which is dubbed the 5th generation iPad, to someone already familiar with the lineup, it's fair to say that this design sits somewhere in between the 2013 and 2014 iPad Airs. It feels less like a new tablet and more like a second, more conservative crack at updating the first, again, iPad Air. And that's partly because its design is nearly identical to the iPad Air. Its size, weight, and general look and feeling are all essentially the same. And, it goes into some of the nitty-gritties. You can, of course, if you're watching the video portion, you can see here where, again, it's not exactly stellar in terms of hardware. Again, it's, not their most advanced unit out there. But again, it's taking some hits in the hardware department and it's putting them towards the price at $330. So, they're saying that, as of right now, the iPad Pro supports a few extra peripherals and offers a little bit more speed, but there's very little it can do that the iPad 5 absolutely can't. So, this is simultaneously a great thing for iPad 5 buyers and a sign that the iPad Pro needs to do more to differentiate itself. Because again, if you're going to pay another $500 or so, yeah, you really have to stand out from the crowd. So, from what I've been hearing from this article, from many, many other articles, the iPad 5, or the 5th generation iPad, it is cheaper and still pretty darn good and definitely the best at its price range. So definitely check that out if you're interested. But again, over the past couple of years, Apple has shown people are not really interested in the iPad. So we'll see if this can turn their luck around. So with all of that, we have time for maybe one or two more stories. And, no, we're not going to do that one. No, we're not going to keep bashing on Apple. We have a couple here, and you can definitely check more, over at computeramerica.com. Let's see, what other articles were kind of keynote here on today's show? So, yep, and let's see, we have, of course, Spotify, TitanXp, 23andMe. Okay, let's do Spotify. So for anyone out there, Spotify, they've been a mainstay of the free listening spectrum because, you get a really, really great service for really no cost. So Spotify is limiting free streaming for its own good, saying that licensing deals are up and the company caved to a label demanding better terms. My goodness. So it's no secret that labels and artists aren't thrilled that their music is available free on ad-supported streaming services. Taylor Swift famously pulled her catalog from Spotify due to his decision to give full on-demand streaming to customers who weren't paying for a monthly subscription. Again, the amount of revenue that an artist receives highly dictates on whether or not they're going to be available on a service. So, the debate over streaming royalties has been going on for a while, And that's on top of the issues that free options raise. Chief among them is the artist compensation, saying that when it comes to Spotify's decision to cede on free streaming, it was a matter of when, not if, this would happen to appease the labels. So, if you're wondering when, it means now. So, as part of the new licensing deal with Universal, artists on the label will have the option, again through Universal, will have the option of making releases exclusive to paying Spotify customers for the first 2 weeks. However, new singles will still be available for anyone using the streaming service. So that means if Katy Perry drops a new song and everyone is tweeting about it, you won't be left wondering what all the fuss is over. Where Spotify didn't disclose any financial terms, but reports mentioned that the streaming service may pay reduced royalties in exchange for caving on the free tiers. So, and they have a quote here, but we're not going to get into that. But they're saying that streaming is helping financially, but it's also providing a massive marketing push. Saying that Apple's Music Beats One radio station has turned into a massive promotional tool for artists. Saying that The Verge recently detailed the ties between the internet radio station, a show that Drake hosts on a regular basis, and the fact that his most recent album shattered streaming records. And of course, Apple Music doesn't have a free a la carte streaming option, but Beats One Radio is available to stream at no cost. So, Spotify doesn't have its version of hosted internet radio, but those singles and other content like Spotify sessions and video go a long way in terms of getting the word out. So, again, it seems like streaming not going anywhere. It's obviously where people want to be, and the idea of a la carte, you get to pick what you want to listen to, and you get to take it anywhere for free. That really isn't going anywhere. Making people pay for listening to music is a good way to make sure pirating music, goes back to the way it was. But they're saying that things need to change, and artists are not as happy with the compensation, and Spotify really can't argue with them because hey, they think it's the same. So, with that being said, while free ad-supported streaming isn't going anywhere, as I just said, the ability to immediately on-demand access new albums when they are released is likely on its way out. And at a time when streaming is big business for the music industry, the terms of old deals won't cut it for either side if they want to sustain growth. So, nothing will necessarily change for Spotify customers. Of course, you can start paying $10 a month for full access or wait 2 weeks for the new singles. And from everyone I've heard or everyone I've talked to about this, they've all said the same thing where they go, I'm not paying for Spotify, so if I have to wait 2 weeks for a particular album, I'm not really concerned. It's kind of the Netflix effect, where nothing on Netflix other than Netflix exclusives, nothing on Netflix is really current, but hey, for the price I'm paying, I'm willing to wait. I think a lot of people are getting behind that as well. So, that is about all the time we have for computer and technology news. I once again want to thank Lime Inc. Again, you can check them out at lime.dating. Lime.dating. Using the new dating domain instead of the .com domain. But yeah, check that out. And we have, of course, a link to it on computeramerica.com. So until next week, and by the way, we have a great lineup of shows next week. You should definitely check us out all next week as we talk to people like Epson, of course, Ralph Bond, Uma, Sandy Berger, and VM Kings. A lot of great companies. Check us out. Again, same time, same place, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. And hey, you won't be disappointed. So, here we go. And again, catch us next week, same time, same place. So everyone, have a great weekend. Go catch a movie. Go do something fun. And be sure to catch us next Monday for another 5 full days of Computer America. So until then, everyone, bye-bye.